Hey everyone, I'm Megan with the I Believe podcast, and we have another patient story. This one is a super special one because it's a super rare one. So please welcome to the podcast Danny Powell.
Hey, how are you doing?
Thank you so much for being here. I'm really excited about this one because you've got a lot of great information that is kind of hard to find. So this is going to be really cool. So Danny, explain to us a little bit about how you got diagnosed. What was the beginning of your journey?
So back in, I guess about 2017, I went to my optometrist that I go to every year for a routine eye exam. And at that time, she told me that there was this spot in my eye, in my right eye, and she said it's just a freckle. She said a lot of people get them. She said they're really common. She said I'll just kind of watch it, when you come each year. And so she doesn't actually do eye dilation, but she does retinal imaging. So retinal imaging, insurance doesn't pay for it, but I paid I think it's like 25 or $30. And so I pay for it, each year when I go, so I just really didn't think anything more about it. So fast forward to 2021, she had checked it every year between each year that I went to the optometrist. 2021, she told me, she said, she said, this spot in your eye, she said, there's a little bit of a change in it. She said, and I don't have the equipment to be able to tell you what it is, so I need to send you to Duke Eye Center so that they can check it out and just see what it is. And so, I asked her at that time and I said, well, what could it be? And she said, well, she said, best case scenario, it's nothing. She said, worst case scenario, it's ocular melanoma. And of course, I was just kind of blown away, because probably like most people, I've heard of melanoma, but I didn't know you could get it in your eye. And so, and I told her that, and she said, yeah. She said, I've been practicing for about 15 years, and she said I've only seen one other patient with ocular melanoma. So I was like, well, okay, y'all just call me, when you set up the appointment, and then I'll go. And she was like, no, we're gonna make the appointment right now. So so she went, she made the appointment. She made me an appointment with a retinal specialist. And so a few days after she had made the appointment with the retinal specialist, I got an email and said that they was going to refer me to a ocular oncologist, Dr. Madron at Duke Eye Center, and they said that way, just in case there is anything, we can get you some faster answers. So I was like, okay, so that was like in July of 2021. So a couple weeks later, early August, they sent me, to Duke. Um, and Dr. Matarin told me, he said, I do see a very small ocular melanoma in your right eye. And he talked about the treatment options. And he said, your best option is probably going to be the plaque brachytherapy. So I agreed to that. End of August, we did the plaque brachytherapy. They left it in for 4 days, and then they took it out. When they did the biopsy, or when they, did the plaque brachytherapy, they did a biopsy also that Castle did, and so it came back as a class 2 prime negative tumor. So, so because it was class 2, he had me go to a medical oncologist. He wanted the medical oncologist to follow me for metastasis to the liver or the lung. So, I started my appointments, with the medical oncologist. That's kind of where things started at.
Aura Biosciences is a clinical stage biotechnology company focused on developing precision therapies for solid tumors that aim to preserve organ function. Our lead candidate, Belsar, is currently in late stage development for primary choroidal melanoma and in early stage development in other ocular oncology indications and bladder cancer. Our mission is to grow as an innovative global oncology company that positively transforms the lives of patients. For more information, please visit us at aurabiosciences.com.
Well, then, I think it might have been maybe sometime in 2022, I had heard stories that my grandmother, well, I knew my grandmother. I knew she didn't have that one of her eyes was gone because she wore glasses, and I had only ever seen pictures of my grandmother. She died before I was born, but she had a tinted lens on her glasses, and I just never really thought much of it. I had heard my mom say that, I had heard different stories that, that she had gotten kicked in the head, that, that she had another type of cancer that spread to her eye. There have been several different stories. So, well, by this time, when I was diagnosed with ocular melanoma, my mom had already she had already passed away. She passed away in 2018. So once we started doing some research on my grandmother, because she did have this this cancer that we thought maybe we knew what it was, but we wasn't exactly sure. We started looking at, doing some family history. Well, come to find out, on her death certificate, it says that she died from liver failure. That was a result of liver cancer that was caused by ocular melanoma. So at that point, we was like, we already knew that ocular melanoma was rare, and then we was like, wow, we've got two people in the family that has had it, when only 6 people out of a million get it. So then, so I went, and I told my medical oncologist about it, and I showed him her death certificate, and he said, well, this is very interesting. He said, we want to do some genetic testing. So we did. So they sent me to Duke Genetics. At that time, when they did the genetic testing at Duke, it came back, the BAP1 gene came back as a variant of uncertain significance. So which they told me basically it was kind of inconclusive. So I was like, well, okay. They was like, you don't need to do anything else further. Nobody in your family needs to be tested or anything like that. So I just kind of, continued on about my way, going to Duke, every 6 months to my ocular oncologist, every 3 months for my scans. And so, um, I guess in probably late 2023, maybe, I got a call from Duke, and it said that my tumor had been reclassified as being likely pathogenic. They said, so most likely they said it seems like you inherited this BAP1 mutation. And they said, and what that does, by you being positive for the BAP1 mutation, they said it makes you more susceptible to several cancers. They said, namely, ocular melanoma, which I already have, and then there was renal cell carcinoma, mesothelioma, and there was one more. I can't think of what it is right now, but it was, those cancers. It makes me more susceptible to those cancers. So they suggested that I go to NIH in Bethesda, Maryland, to take part in a clinical study. That's where I'm at now. I went last year, so I am part of the BAP1 study there. And basically, what I'm doing is I'll go every 2 years for MRIs of my, the brain, the liver, the lungs, and the pelvic area. And so coming up in probably next March or April, I'll have to go back just for my ophthalmology exam. So, so once we found out this information about this BAP1 gene mutation, then it kind of all started, it kind of started clicking, because it was like, okay, I had ocular melanoma, my grandmother did. My mom, she had three different types of cancers in 7 years. The only one that they know of right now that may be connected to BAP1 is she had bladder cancer. Well, I also have a sister that has had bladder cancer. I had one uncle that had bladder cancer. I know of two uncles that had kidney cancer, and several other of my uncles. My mom had 8 brothers. She was the only girl. So several of them had skin melanoma. So skin melanoma is the other one that goes along with BAP1. Now it's kind of like, okay, so we've got all this family history. So now we kind of have a pretty good idea of why. So, I have talked to I have 2 half sisters and a half brother from my mom's first marriage. One of my half sisters has been tested. She tested negative, and my other sister that has the bladder cancer, she has not been tested at this point. But I have talked to my immediate family members about testing. The decision is kind of theirs as to whether they want to be tested. Based on me being BAP1 positive, well, so it doesn't. They said it doesn't skip generations. So they feel like the gene went from my grandmother to my mom, and then my mom passed it to me. And so then there was a 50% chance that mine and my wife's two boys could also be BAP1 positive. So we had them tested earlier this year, and thankfully both of them are negative for the gene. So it stops with them. As far as my family is concerned, it stops with them. So I don't have to. So if they have kids, I don't have to worry about my grandkids having ocular melanoma, not inherited anyway. Now, they could get it, through just like any other person, but they don't have to worry about it being inherited and going through all the early screenings and things like that. So that's kind of where I'm at right now. So I know it's a lot to tell, but that's kind of where we are.
Well, that is a lot. And I want to say I'm sorry about your mother and your grandmother, and also so many cancers in your family. That must have been so hard. I mean,
Yes.
yeah, that's a
Yeah, it was
lot.
just yeah, it was a whole lot, but we never really thought about, anything being genetic. We just kind of thought, well, that's just kind of the way it is, and so we just kind of moved on. So, but it's kind of starting to make sense a little bit more at this point.
Yeah, because you typically don't hear about cancer as genetic. If there's a cluster, you think maybe environmental, maybe there's something going on in the area, but to find the gene, I mean that's kind of a big deal to figure that out.
Yes.
So that's part of what makes Danny so rare is this BAP1 and ocular melanoma. So I mean you're in the rare of the rare category, unfortunately.
hmm Yeah. Yeah. Yes. Yep. And so
And
and it's kind of hard to it's kind of hard to explain ocular melanoma, to begin with. And people that have ocular melanoma, they know exactly what I'm talking about. You go and they tell you have cancer and you have some radiation treatments or chemo treatments, which are not good either. But you start telling them about them putting this radiation plaque in your eye, and then they leave it in there for a few days, and then they take it out, and then they people kind of look at you like you have 2 heads or something. And I mean, you have to stand there and have like a 15-minute conversation with them to explain what you have. And then once I throw the BAP1 component in there, then it really gets complicated at that point. But right now we're just, I'm thankful that my kids, that my wife kids, that they don't have it, so that they don't have to worry about it. So that was a big relief when we found that out.
that's huge. I mean, what more can you ask for at this point? Like
Yes,
that's huge.
yes, yes. And so, for me, I read a lot of stories on Facebook, and my heart just goes out to people. I've known so many people who, they've lost their vision, they've had metastasis, and thankfully for me, my tumor was 2.1 millimeters, so really really small, and it was about as far away from my optic nerve as it can get, and still be inside of my eye. So I've lost very little of my vision, so I've been very lucky. And, my eye doctor, she was just awesome for not sitting on it and waiting. As soon as she seen the change in it, she was like, I can't tell what this is. I'm gonna send you to Duke, and we'll kind of see what it is from there. So I was
Yeah.
very lucky. I was very lucky in that aspect also.
That is amazing. And the fact that you paid extra for those retinal scans, I mean, you did your due diligence. I think a lot of times you hear people find a tumor and they're like, oh, I never went to the eye doctor because I didn't need glasses. So kudos to you for
Hmm.
doing what you were supposed to be doing and finding it so early. That's really
Hmm.
awesome.
Yeah. I'm like, well, it's worth the $25 or $30 to pay for it, just to make sure, there's nothing going on, because I've worn glasses since I was 8 years old. So it was just important for me, to do that. And, we pay for it for my wife and for my kids, also. So my wife, she wears glasses. My oldest son, he wears glasses. And my youngest son, he used to, but he doesn't have to now. But we're going to take him to the eye doctor every year just to have an exam, just to be sure. So I try to encourage people, that don't wear corrective lenses, to still go, to the eye doctor and have your eyes checked. I mean, because there are other things, glaucoma, different things that can go wrong. But I always try to encourage that.
Yeah, I think that's such a huge misconception that you don't have to go to the eye doctor if you see fine. And that's what we're out here trying to, advocate for is let's get those eyes checked and dilate them or get the retinal scan, do something. Because, yeah, so many people think, oh, I don't need an eye exam. And now, if you are wearing contacts or glasses, you can order online and they have an online eye exam you do yourself that basically is you just checking a box saying, hey, yeah, I still see the same, and they'll renew it for a whole nother year. You don't even have to go to the eye doctor. So that's actually getting a little scary.
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. That is.
Yeah.
Yep.
So
So
even
yeah,
people with
yeah.
glasses are starting to not go. So yes, please, please keep
Wow.
going to the eye doctor. Be like Danny, go to the eye
Yeah.
doctor.
Yeah. Yeah. So yes, I'm definitely going to continue to go every year. And it's also, well, one thing I did forget to mention is, I did talk about that me being in the clinical trial at NIH. One of the things that I had read online, and they actually looked for this at NIH, is there is these places. They had a patient there a few years ago, and he noticed some abnormalities in his fingernails. And so there was like a place up under one of his fingernails, and it was just kind of like a spot. I think they call it a tumor, but it's not really big. But it's just like right up under the nail bed at the top of it, at the top of the fingernail, and then the nail has like a white line, that it runs from top to bottom where that spot is. He just kind of casually made mention of it, and they looked at it at NIH, and when they did, they went back and they started looking at their other patients, and they started seeing that it was very common. This condition was very common in people with the BAP1 mutation.
Castle Biosciences is a proud sponsor of this I Believe podcast. Castle's innovative uveal melanoma tests provide valuable information about the risk of your eye cancer spreading to help you and your healthcare team individualize the management of your disease. To learn more, visit castlebiosciences.com.
When I went last April, beginning of May, they looked at my nails and they said that I have like three or four places in my fingernails that they can see. They said you have that characteristic also, as most patients do.
And isn't it crazy that they just found it by total happenstance that somebody was like, hey, I got this weird thing. And they're like, oh, maybe that's related. I mean, it just goes to show that we're still so early in all of these things and it's unfolding so quickly. Like the advances we're making and the discoveries and the new medicines, like it's coming, guys.
Yes, yeah, it's definitely been an adventure, and I get a lot of information, from a Cure Insight. Y'all have helped me out, a great deal, as far as finding resources, connecting with people. When I was first diagnosed, Melody, she connected me with a person that lives here in the same county that I do. And, she said, Danny, she said, if you want me to, she said, I'll connect you with her. She said, she has ocular melanoma. She said, maybe y'all can just she said, since y'all live so close to each other, she said, maybe y'all can just kind of connect and, and share stories and whatnot. And so, I was really thankful for that because, and come to find out, the girl, she only lives about 3 miles from where I live at. Unfortunately, she succumbed to ocular melanoma, liver metastasis, last year. So, unfortunately, so, she was a good resource, for me, just to have someone to talk to understand, to be able to understand, when you're talking about testing and different things. It's good to have someone to talk to that understands what you're going through. So,
Yeah, because it is such a unique situation to be in.
hmm yes,
Yeah.
yes,
There's so many things with ocular melanoma that other cancers are different. Not that they have or don't have, or it's not a competition, but it's just so different. Like, I'm sure you probably also get, you look fine.
hmm
And
yes, all the
that
time.
that's a tough one for ocular melanoma too.
hmm Yes, 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 I have people tell me all the time. They say, well, you don't look sick, and I said, well, no. I said, and I feel good mentally. I'm always struggling, with this, just kind of wondering, okay, is the metastasis going to show up later on? When is it going to happen? And so then it goes back to when I have when my scans are coming up and things like that. I always get really nervous, at time when it's scan time. So because I'm just kind of waiting, and I hope it never comes, but I always worry about the day that I'm gonna go in there and and I have my scan done and they say, Danny, we see this spot on your liver and it's something we need to look at further. But I mean, thankfully, it has been 4 years so far, and so far my scans have looked really good.
Good.
But it is something that you live with every single day because you just never know.
Right. Well, are there any words that you would like to give to the community, maybe somebody who's new and coming in that could gain some wisdom or insight from your experience?
Just I mean, I guess the only thing I could say is, well, now of course, when I first heard the word ocular melanoma, what was the first thing I did? I did probably what most people do and go look at Google and start researching and there's, you can find some good information there, but you have to be careful because there's also a lot of outdated information there also. So you have to kind of be careful what information that you're looking at, and just know too that one thing that I found out is everybody's situation is different. I've heard some people say that when they had their plaque brachytherapy, they had it done, and after 2 or 3 days they went back to work. Me, I was out of work for like 6 weeks. Maybe my threshold to pain is not as good as some other people's, but there are differences there, as far as how long your double vision lasts and how long does the pain last. And so everybody's story is different. Don't just look at one person's story and say, okay, this is what's going to happen to me, because there's a wide range of possibilities that can happen. So, and also to go get those eyes checked, every year, even if you think you don't even if you think you don't have a problem, still go get them checked. So it could save your life. I mean, I know that probably sounds cliche, but it literally could save your life.
Absolutely. Wise words. Well, thank you. Is there anything that we didn't cover that you would like to cover before we wrap up?
Nothing that I can think of right now. But if anybody does, if you feel like you want to contact me, ask me any questions about BAP1, I'm on Facebook, uh, Danny Powell. I live in Timberlake, North Carolina, so you can look me up and I'll be glad to help you out any way that I can.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Danny. Thank you for being here and sharing your story and just being a resource for people. That's just so inspiring, and we really appreciate you.
And thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Of course. And to everyone watching, thank you so much for watching. This podcast wouldn't function without the views. So please like and subscribe and leave us some comments. Leave Danny a comment. Let him know what you thought of his story. That would be very appreciated. And a huge thank you to our sponsors. We can't do this podcast without our sponsors. So they are everything to us, and they make this podcast function. They bring all of this free education to you. So check out their websites and see what they have to offer. They're great, great people. And if you come to any of our events, you'll likely find representatives from the companies. I think they were all at I Believe, but they'll pop up kind of at the 5Ks and all over, and they're wonderful. If you see any of their booths, please talk to them. They love talking to you guys. They want to hear your feedback. I think that's the biggest thing I've learned with working for a Cure Insight is there's this whole stigma of like, ooh, pharma's scary. They're not. They're the most wonderful people. Please talk to our pharma reps. They're lovely, and support our sponsors because they're supporting us.
I was at the I Believe seminar that y'all had in Raleigh just a couple of months ago. I was, thankful that it was right here close to home for me. So I was just really thankful for that. So if you're out there and you ever have the opportunity to go to one of those seminars, I highly, highly encourage you to go.
Absolutely. Let's just talk about I Believe for a quick second here. We just had it in Raleigh. It was fantastic. We do move them around the country. It's in a different location every year. And the reason is because, number one, we'd like to be able to be close to everyone so everyone has an opportunity to go if you don't travel well. But also, we do a hosting physician. So depending which doctor is going to host depends where we go. Next year is going to be Texas with Dr. Harbour. So mark your calendars. I'm not sure the exact date, but it will be sometime in the fall. And they're just a lot of fun. We get all the patients together, the doctors, the pharma reps, and there's a lot of education and stuff that happens, and then we end with a big old party, and it's a great time. So please do come to our events. Find a 5K near you. Anything else that we do, there's Swing for Sight is in Napa every spring. It's a golf tournament. That's a ton of fun. So we would love to see you guys at our events. It's awesome. Okay, and then another thing, please go to our website, acureinsight.org. Up at the top, you'll find a button to subscribe to our newsletter. Please join the newsletter. We send it out once a month with a bunch of information. And we also send out an occasional email if it's something that's very timely and important, like an update from pharma, from our buddies at pharma. So join the newsletter, please. And then also check out our Cure Companions. You'll find that on our website as well. That buddies up a new patient with a veteran patient. And, like Danny was saying, sometimes just having a veteran who can tell you how their experience was and just be an ear to listen and understand, it can be such a big benefit. So if you would like a Cure Companion, or if you'd like to volunteer to be one, you can find that on our website. And then check out our Zoom groups every Tuesday. There's a regular room and a metastatic room, depending which room you feel comfortable with. You can connect with other OMIs and find a buddy there too. So we have a lot of resources. Please continue to check out our website, but also follow our socials because we are posting when we update clinical trials, when we get updates from pharma, from doctors, we're going to post that stuff on social as well as occasional emails. So the best thing you guys can do is follow all the socials and sign up for the newsletter, and then just start showing up and meeting other people and connecting. It will make a difference, I promise. All right, everyone, we're going to sign off and we will see you next week.
Thank you.